In a field that's been in a constant state of change since it was first created, film in the last couple decades has learned a cool new trick: comic book adaptations. A medium once enjoyed only by children and man-children, graphic novels are now a source of new entertainment franchises every other day. Films and television shows based off of this format are so numerous, IMDb could easily make a top and bottom list of comic adaptations. BuzzFeed already has 3 dozen. With such a wide field to choose from, which comic adaptation am I focusing on today? 2010's own bit of dark comedy, Kick-Ass. A comic with a huge following, Kick-Ass the movie was met with ample praise. I think part of that is owed to the fact that it sounds like the title to one of those parody movies that no one wants to see, but ended up being a real movie instead. It has romance, comedy, and of course, ass-kicking, all surrounding an exquisite little social message. So what are we waiting for? Let's do this! Meet Dave, the dork with a dream. He's okay at school, has a dead mother, and has jerks for friends. Due to no real reason aside from boredom, he begins training to become a comic book hero. Yeah, that's seriously how this film starts. Well, okay, not starts, that goes more like this.
At some point in our lives, we all wanted to be a superhero.
I did mention dark comedy, right? Because, yeah, it gets pretty dark. His first attempt at heroics does not go well, and he ends up in an ambulance suffering severe nerve damage. Where normal stories would stop, he instead dons the costume again and goes out looking for trouble. Persistence in the face of life-threatening danger? Now that's a heroic trait. Or a sign of mental instability. That's a recurring question too. What's the difference between heroic and crazy? Turns out it's really nothing. Heroic is just crazy at helpful times. Now let's move on to the interesting part of this film. No. I cannot sit by again and watch you do this. Great, it's Psycho. How did you get through the firewall? I've sat by just waiting, hoping that you would reach out because you'd realize you're in over your head. Like you seem to be most of the time. I haven't been over my head. Wrong, but I'll let it slide this time. Now back to the matter at hand. Are you insane? I'm sure you think that I am. How can you totally ignore the crazy characters running rampant in Kick-Ass as causal factors? Because they're just flavoring. Flavoring, right, because that's what I'd call the title character. Anyone with basic powers of observation will notice that this Dave specimen is a bit crazy. Either telling Sign could be his initial choice to become a vigilante, or his writing rumors to become closer to his future girlfriend. Very clear evidence of that all around. He's just a kid. Kids make mistakes. So, you also donned a costume to fight crime as a child. Who didn't? Okay, let's move away from the lost adolescent and focus on my main argument. Big Daddy. Why are you laughing? Oh, nothing. I just love hearing about comic relief from a serious psychological perspective. Comic relief? His name is Big Daddy, and half the people in the movie think that he's Batman. If that's not a spoof, I don't know what is. Then you clearly don't know what is. Okay, kid, you asked for it. I'm bringing in the referee.
As you're casually walking through the Force's dungeon, suddenly there's a flash flood! I'm gonna need swim checks from all of you! What's the highest check that we have?
2.
Well, there goes the water dungeon I had planned.
Hey DM, I've got a situation for you to settle. You mean this argument you're about to lose? You're beyond help here.
Christ, this again. Look, it's called couples counseling, guys, get it!
Tell this man that Big Daddy is nothing more than a Batman spoof.
What?
He's insisting that Nicolas Cage in Kick-Ass is a parody rather than a unique character from the well-known Batman.
Look, Soch, I understand that you have this physical need to argue with Psycho on this one, but you're not winning it, trust me. Big Daddy, while similar in his motivation, is entirely different in the execution of his revenge. Batman became a hero, trying to defend the innocent against the tragedy he suffered in youth. Cage actively tosses his own child's innocence under the train in the name of vengeance.
Wait, Psycho's right? Stop gawking and listen to the man.
Big Daddy wasn't wounded and left without guidance. He was gutted and left forgotten. That which warped the bat broke the man. Why do you think Nick Cage was the perfect casting choice? He's a head case.
There it is. Head case, psychology, win. Whoa. There's a facet you're both missing here. The situation. And here comes the cause-effect boat.
We just told you they had different situations.
Only in the details. Both Gotham and this version of New York had a serious problem with organized crime, where everyday citizens felt threatened on a daily basis. Such oppressive environments breed ample opportunity for the incidents that led to the creation of both of these characters.
Okay, I guess.
But we're not discussing the setting, we're discussing the men and their individual responses to these situations.
Well, that is a valid point, but...
Without those situations, the responses would have been moot because they wouldn't have occurred.
Okay, stop!
What?
Couples counseling. You're both right. Without the corrupt system, neither of them would have done anything interesting.
Thank you.
But their unique responses make them into completely different psyches.
There, see? We can both be right.
Social psychology. Coming together. Couples counseling. Let's get started.
What do I pay you for, DM?
You don't pay me.
Wow, that really explains the ever-present animosity between you two. There you go, just nitpicking things apart again. Oh, look, I'm psycho. This is what I do. A nit,
I'll leave you two lovers alone then. Well, does anybody have water breathing ready? Christ, the kids in Heavy Rain were more prepared for...
Picking things apart. Analyzing things is your job. That's what you have this show for. And bickering with me is getting you nowhere. Now I have an observation. Will you hear me out? Yes, I suppose I can. As long as you don't go off point. Do I look like Kelvin to you? No, people like Kelvin. Anyway, Big Daddy's archetype isn't the hero trope, it's the psychotic one. He shares more in common with V than he does Batman. His motivations are entirely selfish, as are his actions. I kind of see the V parallel, but by acting on his voracious, vicious vengeance, he does help people. Inadvertently, and not really. What is the ramification for his all-out violence against the mob again? Public execution. Public execution. Yeah, that's escalation no one wants to see. He does serve as a great example to what happens when vigilantism is taken too far. Hit Girl is still awesome, though. Totally agreed. Actually, I wrote an article on Hit Girl's psychological profile. Would you like me to read some highlights for you? Maybe another time. Thanks, Psycho. No problem. Happy you finally listened to me. Oh, you know, if the dog keeps barking, best to let it outside, right? No comment. So, while the hero characters do drive this plot, it's not until the intervention of this little thing called YouTube that anyone outside of victims knows who they are. Kick-Ass gets his 15 minutes of fame and even has a constant stream of messages on his... MySpace? Huh, we found it! The last movie that took MySpace seriously. This film shows an interesting side effect of the constantly connected generation. Before the invention of the camera phone, private moments were typically only remembered by those that were there and directly witnessed it. Nowadays, candid images and videos of friends pop up on news feeds all over the world. And anyone that's been to a college party knows how damaging this could be. When what was once private becomes part of the public sphere, it changes the meaning of the action. What is considered a funny prank to a friend in a small circle could become a reason to fire or sue an individual for criminal behavior. That's the strange power that our current media has. Hell, it even gives eccentrics some means to make a name for themselves by spouting opinions about popular events or media. For an example of this, refer to what you're currently watching. When Kick-Ass gets internet fame, his popularity starts to affect his life. Higher profile means he's attracting real crazy people, as well as those that wish to exploit his newfound connections for their own gain. Huh, this movie is strangely accurate. His fandom brings fans, but his real friend count consists of the connections he had before becoming Kick-Ass, as well as other heroes that he encounters along the way. Only those that knew him before his new state or can relate to his current situation find connection with him, because he's been fetishized by the rest of the population. Not that kind of fetish, the Marx kind! Karl Marx's fetishism of commodities, where a product or even the labor someone produces becomes alienated from the individual that made it, applies very well to the situation Kick-Ass finds himself in. While fulfilling his own aim to become a hero, he finds others have taken this image that was once considered stupid and are making money off of it. Since he's just happy that they're talking about him, it doesn't bother him much. Later, there would be talk of royalties. Even his heroic actions hold no real meaning to people until they can share the link with their friends, making his act of putting himself in harm's way into a form of entertainment. Just like actors' lives on TMZ, Kick-Ass's triumphs and failures are just fodder for mass sharing. But despite this, his heart stays true to his cause. Regardless of how the world reacts to him, he stays on the path of the hero, fighting without powers, without the support of his fans, without knowing that he would eventually win. That's a huge reason why this film works so well. As outlandish and silly as parts can be, you really believe the characters. These are people fighting for something every step of the way. For themselves, for their loved ones, for money, for power, but each motive is well explained and understood. When you have an entire cast that's motivated without feeling like a plot device driving it, what you get is a great experience. That's why I highly recommend seeing Kick-Ass. It's a little dark, kind of obscene, but It's an experience that will stick with you. Also, it's a much safer way to live out your hero fantasies. I'm the other Socio, and I fight for alliteration.
Big Daddy wasn't wounded and left without guidance. He was gutted and left forgotten. That which broke the bat, yes.
That which broke the bat warped the man.
That which broke the bat really ruined my T-ball game.